Welcome to StoryCon. I'm Cressida Cowell, and I'm the writer and the illustrator of the How to Train Your Dragon books and the Wizards of Once series, and I'm also the Waterstones Children's Laureate. So what inspired me to pursue a career in creative writing? Well, I loved reading stories. I loved reading stories when I was a kid. I loved books, but I also loved writing. I loved creating. And I'm an illustrator as well, so I do write books that are a combination of writing and illustrating. So for me, it's not just about telling stories, which I love. It's about, because I could be writing stories for adults, I could be writing stories for screen. All of that would be fun, but for me, the extra challenge is writing books that will get children reading with as much excitement as I read when I was a kid. It's a challenge. I love a challenge. I'm trying to write books that are a combination of things. Some people are exclusively writing funny books or scary books or thrilling books. I'm trying to write books that are all three at the same time, which is kind of technically quite tricky. Again, it's a bit of a challenge. I set the rules, so it's all my own fault. I set the challenge. I sort of think it's a bit, I always try and say it's a bit like a piece of music. I kind of balance the scary bits and the funny bits and run them through the book. They're like different instruments, so the funny bits are like a little flute and the scary bits are like a big drum, and I have to make it work all together and pull back the funny bits when I'm trying to get to the big crescendo, if you see what I mean. You know, people are often very condescending about writing for children, very annoying, I think, because actually children are a very exacting audience, and you now have to talk down to children. So the themes that I explore are about being a hero, about what kind of leaders do we deserve. They're about politics, the environment, they're about love. They're about all the most important things in life, really. And this is the important thing. This is really important to know that you can write your own story, and that's just fine. You know, you've got to write something that you care about and that you believe is important. You know, you can still write about Mr. Carrot, Mr. Orange, the talking carrot, and make it something exciting and interesting. Don't be ashamed of your story or think it's not important. That's really important. And write what you would like to read. I would say that to me is very important. I mean, your story is important. If it's important to you, it will be important to other people. So you need to tell the truth about things that are important to you. And if you tell the truth, your story will be interesting to other people. Everybody has a story in them. Everybody has a story to tell. And don't worry if you're telling a story in a new and a different way. That can be very exciting. If you go in and you think, you know, there hasn't been graphic novels that are told in book form, and therefore that can't happen. This is what happened to me with How to Train Your Dragon. When I first started writing How to Train Your Dragon, nobody was writing middle grade books in that kind of a way. But that's kind of interesting. If you're doing something new and something that nobody's done before, have confidence in that. That's exciting. I think that if you're a writer, you have to write. So don't put things off. It's sometimes life gets in the way. It's busy. I had 3 children when I was writing my books, so I had to be very strict with myself about going into that writing shed and just writing anyway. So as soon as the kids went to school, I was writing. I write every day when I'm not going out and talking in schools and things, because it's something you have to practice at, and that kind of discipline is really important. It's one side of the writer that is very important. Write even if you don't feel like it. Don't worry if you're always not finishing your books. I mean, you've still got to go to school and things like that. It's often about practicing. I wrote a lot of stories that I didn't finish when I was a child and a teenager, and that didn't matter because I was practicing. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's really hard not to do this, and it's very natural to compare yourself to other people. But remember, you're still learning. when I was little, I used to copy, because I'm an illustrator as well, I used to copy Snoopy, and I would get really depressed because my Snoopy was never as good as the real Snoopy. But I had to remember, at the time, I was only 9. Don't forget, you're only 9, you're only 12, you're only 15. Don't compare yourself to others out there. You're learning, you're practicing. You've got to get rid of that critical thing that says, crosses things out and says, you've just got to go for it anyway. Just got to go for it anyway. So that's something I still have to tell myself. It's very easy to write and think, oh, that's no good, and therefore get downhearted. Even writers who are writing lots of books that are published feel that. Don't feel that. That should make you give up. I would say that's really important. I go through this the whole time. 1 minute I think I'm a genius. The next minute I think, oh, I'm an idiot. That's just part of the whole process. It is about practicing, and it's about mistakes. I like mistakes, by the way. I think mistakes can often lead you somewhere interesting. People don't talk about mistakes as much as they should. Hiccup is another name for an accident, and that's not an accident. He embraces, all the most interesting people embraced mistakes. So I think it isn't important to finish every time. If you've got so far with an idea and you're not going anywhere, put it aside, start something else, and then come back to it later. And remember, at this stage, it's about practicing. It's a good idea to carry around a book with you that you can kind of draw in or put down ideas in at all times. Most creative people will have that, like not just writers, but artists, directors, because you never know when a good idea might come to you. So if you have the book with you all the time, you can write those ideas down and come back to them later. Education is always wonderful, but school can suffer from being somewhere where people feel that they have to be judging you all the time. This is not the fault of the teachers. It's just that the way the exam system is all set up. So that can be quite cramping for creativity. You do have to learn skills. But there needs to be a space for pure creativity. All the most clever and interesting people have talked about this. Einstein, knowledge is limited, imagination encircles the world. Yeah, he was all about the mistakes. He always said that no problem can be solved with the same mindset that created it. Yeah, interesting. So, children of the future is what he's kind of saying there. Yeah, because they're natural rule breakers. School does not necessarily, the education process does not necessarily encourage rule breaking. I don't want to get out there encouraging you to break the rules, but with creativity, it is often about breaking rules, about exploring new possibilities. How do people teach that? That's hard to teach within the education system, and there's often not a space for that. And that can really put you off. When I was a teenager, we no longer wrote stories in school. I don't know what it's like in your school. We no longer wrote stories. Apart from in history, I had one wonderful history teacher who asked me to write Imagine You're a Viking, actually. She asked me to write that. But that can be very disengaging. That can put you off writing. Feeling that you have to write in a certain kind of a way. I know it's all well-meaning, but find a space to write for the joy of it, what you really care about, what you mind about, the things that you mind about. Writing for the joy of it is something that we should be putting at the heart of everything. The creative industries make over £100 billion a year for this economy, outperforming the rest of the economy by double. Yeah, we're fantastic at this. We're fantastic film business. We have amazing book business. But people don't talk about that so much. So it's really important that you find time to be creative. By attending a conference like StoryCon, you are already committing to your own creative practice. You are showing up to improve and to learn and to grow as a writer, and hopefully over the course of the weekend you will feel inspired to believe that your next idea could be the best one yet.